All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here rocking out one more time with the Hard Mode Gamers podcast. And today we have the one and only Kyle from Weirdest Builds hanging out with us. And it's going to be an interesting show. We're going to cover some stuff about E3, learn a little bit more about Weirdest Builds, and have a good time. So. I'm here with Kyle. Kyle, tell the people a little bit about yourself before I start diving into some questions.
Sure. So, my name is Kyle. On the chat, they almost always call me Clee because of a misspelling one day. But I mostly stream like Fallout 4, Skyrim stuff. I'm on Twitch, WeirdistBuilds, and I'm also and this is something that I didn't find out about until way later. I'm apparently in the Guinness Book of World Records for my original no-kill run in Fallout 4, which was a thing that I guess people thought wasn't possible. And actually, the developers kind of came out and said, this isn't a thing you can do. And I was like, this is Fallout. I bet you can break it. So, so one day I'm at the bookstore and I'm like flipping through the like gamers edition of the Guinness Book of World Records. And not only am I in it, but my face is in it. And I was like, what is this? And I was like showing people at the bookstore. I'm like, look, dude, I'm in this. I'm in this. Isn't that weird? And they were just like, I don't know. Is it weird? It was a very strange moment.
That's
But yeah,
crazy. So they didn't reach out to you or anything? Like you didn't they just took your picture and put it in the book?
they kind of told me that they were thinking about it like a year before that. And I was like, okay, well, let me know if that happens. And they didn't let me know. They just
And they
put it
didn't
in
let
there.
you know, but it
It's,
happened.
it's,
So
it, so this is a good life lesson. Always have a good Twitter profile pic because you never know when somebody's just going to take it and use it for like the picture that everyone identifies you as for the rest of your life.
wow, lesson learned. Look at that. We're off to a great start. He's teaching lessons already. I like it. So
Yeah.
how did you so tell us a little bit more about Weirdest Builds.
So once upon a time, I was uh, younger and skinnier, if you can believe it. And I used to hang out like, I used to just like always go to coffee shops and I'd like try to hang out with like all these different kinds of girls. And I was super into the idea of like learning a basic, I don't know why, but this was like a thing that I used to do. I used to like get a crush on a girl and then I would like really, really focus on like whatever was their interest. And so because of that, I learned how to do all kinds of stuff. Like I learned how to do like art and like I learned how to do music. And one day I was just like, man, this isn't really working. I'm just going to do the thing that I really like to do for me because, at least then I won't be doing something that I hate just because I think it's going to impress somebody. And so I started making these YouTube videos about like the characters that I would make in like Oblivion and Fallout and stuff. And I was just like, I just want to show people the different ways that you can play these games because there's like 100 different ways to play these games. And so I made these YouTube videos, and they weren't very popular. I got like whatever 1,000 views on some of them, and I was just like, yeah, I don't care. It's like this is me. It's fun. And so yeah, after a while, they announced Fallout 4, and when it came out, I was like, I think I can do this. So I did it, and then afterward, I started doing Twitch because they wrote an article about the playthrough on Kotaku, and ever since then, I've just been trying. I mean, really, it's been, what is it, 3 years almost? And I've just been trying all these different ways to play Fallout, and I still haven't run out of ideas. So that's pretty much all we do. I play occasionally some other stuff, but like, yeah, once I deviate from Fallout, everybody leaves the channel, and I'm just like, hey, I'm fine with it if you're fine with it. I got time. And
That's such
I've
a
read around. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say that's such an interesting like dynamic that's there. You try to do something different, and people are like, "No, we're not paying attention to this. Go back to the other thing."
Yeah, I mean, I have an amazing community, like an unbelievable community, and I would have thought for sure they would have been like, when the new Wolfenstein came out, I was like, you guys want to watch me play this? And I think we did it for a day, and I think there was like 40 people or something like that, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I really like it, but I ended up finishing the game off stream because I wasn't doing anything really strange in it. So I mean, maybe that's all it is. Maybe I just gotta play. Maybe I just gotta play a game until I start coming up with my own like personal challenges for it.
And then that way, once you do that, people will start looking at it and be like, "Hey, wow, this guy's doing something really different with these games."
Yeah, yeah.
Do you primarily play on PC?
Yes. So I mostly use. I have a PlayStation 4, and occasionally I'll get really into something on that. But like, I won't play anything off the PS4 on stream, basically. And I just mostly play like on my box. I have the same computer for streaming as for gaming, and I run like a. I don't even know what is in this thing. It's like a Ryzen like 16 core with like 16 gigs of RAM and like a 1080. Yeah,
Wow, that's a
I'm
pretty
on it
beastly
right now,
machine, man.
actually. Yeah. Well, I found out that if you're on Twitch and it's your primary source of income, which for me at this point it is, I found out that you can basically set yourself up as a small business and claim all of your computer upgrades on your taxes. So that's what I've been doing.
That's
You can
genius.
even
That's
actually you can
absolutely
even claim
genius.
you can even claim the section of your apartment that you use for streaming as your like personal office, as long as you don't really use it for anything else.
Wow, I had
So
no
yeah,
idea you could do any of that.
yeah.
That's insane.
I
That's
mean,
that's
yeah,
another jewel dropped right there.
yeah. If you're into Twitch and you're thinking about going full time, my first suggestion is don't go full time until you like literally don't have time for both your day job and streaming anymore, because your streaming is doing so well. Because it's, I think I dropped my full time job after doing Twitch for 2 years, and I was already doing well on Twitch when I started, because of that because they wrote a Kotaku article about that playthrough. I started out and I immediately had like 100 viewers. Like I jumped over the hardest part of being on Twitch immediately. So by that account, I'm very lucky and very, you know, kind of very different from most people who kind of start out and they just build a fan base. I went straight to like the middle level of Twitch, which is great.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was luck though, because I feel like the challenge that you did on Fallout, like that's a big thing. I mean, that's one of those. It's like it's like when people watch like old speed runs of Mario and stuff like that. Like you essentially did the nearly impossible, and that is definitely like that definitely merits the attention that you've gotten. So it's not so much. I wouldn't say you dove into Twitch and got lucky enough to start in the middle. I think you earned that position and then kind of converted it over to Twitch.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I actually, the longer that I've played this game, the more I realize that my original no kill run is so bad. I feel like I could do it way better now, but every time that I do a playthrough, I have about 10 suggestions for new ones, and they're all like pretty good. So I never get around to like revisiting old challenges.
Wow, wow, that's crazy. Has anybody tried to beat your record yet?
Honestly, I don't know if they have. They have like they haven't like come at me or anything like on Twitter or anything like that. I think my favorite thing is basically what happens is people still find that playthrough on YouTube, and they go to like the first the first part, and they see that the original playthrough uses like quick saving and quick loading all the time, and they like that's when people come at me. They're like, "This is garbage. You're cheating. You may like you may as well you could do anything like this. Like you're basically just re-rolling your dice over and over again." And almost always that happens because they still find that playthrough through the article or through. I mean, the day that it happened, it was crazy. Like there was gaming sites from like different countries that were writing about it and stuff. And so that still comes up occasionally. And what people always don't know when they come into my channel is that there's another no kill run that we did when the survival mode was updated that doesn't let you do quick saving and quick loading or fast traveling or anything that made that first one easy. And it's on there too. And like every single time that somebody comes at me like that, I just immediately like say, "Hey man, check my playlists. I did the thing you think is impossible. Just, have a great day. See you later."
There's no
Yeah.
better way to handle that situation. So I guess the
Oh
big
yeah.
question that a lot of people probably have right now, is how did the news break of you doing this? Like, did you send out the information saying you did this? Did how did other people find out about this?
Oh yeah, no, I totally did. That's okay. Okay, let me. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, so this is my advice for anyone who wants to be successful on Twitch immediately without having to go the long way. Here's my advice. First, make up a challenge that somebody thinks can't be done that you already know you can do. Okay? That's what I did. Like, literally, the no kill run is no kills in the Pip Boy, but people still get killed all the time in the playthrough. It's just not from me, right? Because otherwise the game wouldn't move forward. So I'm basically make up a challenge, okay, that you think you're going to be into that nobody else is into, right? Then you complete it, and then you send a press release to Kotaku, which is what I did. I just emailed Kotaku and said, "Hey, I did this thing." They said it couldn't be done, and one of their reporters, I don't know if it was just luck of the draw or if they just saw the email and they were like, "Huh," because it was pretty fairly new. It was a new game. That's another thing. Do a new game so that people want to write about it. And they sent me, a couple of questions to me, and I answered them, and then that article went up. And actually, if I had known how crazy it would have gotten, I would have had my Twitch already set up. For a week after the hype was out of control, I wasn't on Twitch at all. And I didn't give them my Twitch account at all, which because it didn't exist. And now that's the one thing that I'm like, man, I could have maybe doubled the amount of interest in the channel right off the bat if I had been ready for it. So be ready for it. But yeah, that's how I did it. I literally just sent an email. They have I don't remember what it is, a tips email on Kotaku, and you can just send them the email,
Yeah, I've seen
and
that.
they'll so
Wow,
yeah.
that's
And
pretty dope.
I've only ever done it one other time, which is when they released the new survival mode, and I did the permadeath run. Tried to be the first person to do it, and I think I was the first person to do it. But they didn't care about the challenge. They cared about a part of the challenge where Preston Garvey turned into the Terminator and chased me for an hour. So that was the other article that got written, was this story about Preston Garvey basically going insane and trying to kill me
Oh man, that's
during a
crazy.
permadeath run. Yeah.
That's insane.
So
Wow. Yeah. So again, it's not so much the luck of the draw because you put in the necessary work to make it happen. It wasn't like someone just stumbled upon this video and it blew up. So
yeah.
that's pretty amazing. I think that you're on to something great. How often are you, because it's your full time, essentially your full time job now? How often are you streaming?
Um, the truth is, I know for a fact that I should be streaming more. So I do 6 hours a day for 5 days a week, which I don't think comes to much. That's only 30 hours. And a full time guy should be doing 40 hours. But I'm also in school for game design. I just barely got into the program at my university, so I can kind of increase my hours here and there, but for the most part, I have to kind of split my attention between doing Twitch and doing schoolwork. So right now, I'm only doing 30 hours a week.
But I think
But
30 hours is good though, because I mean that's almost full time. You know, what I mean, like that's barely part time. That's that blurry area where most companies will avoid giving you vacation time. So,
yeah, yeah.
so I think you're doing a good amount. And you said you're going to school for game design. Is that something that was kind of always in your vision, like long term, going to school for game design, or is that something that just kind of came about because of what you're doing?
No, I'll actually tell you this story. So I used to be a landscaper. I mowed lawns for the LDS church in Utah for 13, 14 years. Way longer than I look like I could possibly have done a full-time job. I look very young. But I did that for a really long time. And it never paid super well, but it was a really great job because you could just sit there and mow and listen to audiobooks and stuff. So one day I'm taking my friends to a water park, and I'm like, I want to go home and play video games. So I leave them there, and on the way back home, I get pulled over, and I don't have. I guess I had some tickets that I didn't pay, and they straight up arrested me on the street. And that was while I was in jail for 3 days for a registration ticket. And while I was in there, I was so bored and so depressed that I was like, when I get out of here, I'm gonna go to school. So after I got out, I applied for like financial aid and started going to like UVU. And in like the next year, that was when I blew up on Twitch. And I kind of think now that if I knew that Twitch was going to happen so like crazily for me, I probably wouldn't have gone to school because I love playing games a lot more than I like making them. But I feel like being like a pro, I don't know how you would even put me a pro gamer, I guess, but I feel like being a pro gamer gives me like extra insight into how games ought to work. So I'm like, I'm gonna just keep doing this because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do Twitch forever. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
that's how I
That
got
is
into it.
that is such a crazy story. Like that happened to me as well once. I got arrested for a bad registration issue, and I had to spend a couple nights in jail too. So I feel your pain with that. We could definitely relate on that. It's a pretty boring experience.
Yeah, it was a super drag. And I had my prescription sunglasses and not my regular glasses, and I had like long hair, and I just looked like the world's biggest drug dealer. Like I just looked like going up to like the pole whatever the stand or whatever and having the judge be like, "You want to explain this?" And I'm just looking like Cheech, like just like dark sunglasses, dark round sunglasses, and like long hair and like haven't shaved. I'm just like, well, they didn't put it in the system. And she's like, oh, it's our fault. And I was like, this isn't going to go well for me.
We're already off to a bad start.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's
Yeah,
funny.
it
Well,
was,
thanks for sharing all those wonderful stories for us. I want to dive
yeah,
into
for
some
sure.
video game news from the week. As we know, it's been E3. There were a lot of crazy announcements, and I feel like because you're a Fallout person, I spent the whole Bethesda conference. I spent sitting next to someone who absolutely hates Fallout 4 but loves Fallout 3. So what's your perspective on that before we dive into Fallout 76?
The Fallout 4, Fallout 3 thing.
Yeah,
Um, so, okay. So, the part of the reason why people didn't like Fallout 4 as much, I feel like, is because they really like I mean they basically cleaned up all their combat but I mean yeah supposedly the story is terrible compared to Fallout 3 but the Fallout 3 story is terrible. I mean they're both not great. They're not like written by they're not like written by Tolkien or anything. They're just like um it's just like you have this family member that's missing and you need to go find them, and then when you find them you realize that there's like something bigger at stake. It's like the same plot. You know what I mean? I think part of the reason why people really disliked Fallout 4 is because the the word was that there was less ways to play it. You know what I mean? That's like one of the things that really makes Skyrim like why people keep buying Skyrim. You know what I mean? Because there's like endless replayability. You could play the games like all these different ways. But I know people who still think Fallout 3 is the absolute best, and I don't know. I can't relate to them. I've been playing Fallout 4 for so long that I genuinely feel like there's more ways to play Fallout 4 than anything else. So I mean, everybody's got their opinion, but if you ask me, I actually do think the new ones are better than the old ones.
that's funny. I'm glad you said that because every time I get into a discussion with somebody about why I don't like Fallout, and for me it's primarily because I'm a story driven gamer. Like I like playing games where the narrative is powerful, and that's what I'm playing the game for, is to dive into a world that I can't take part in real life and get to play through this like abstract story. So when I jump into games like Fallout, like Elder Scrolls, it gives me too much too much freedom to just live as if I was living life, and it doesn't like I don't feel like it captures me in the way that a game like Metal Gear Solid or Devil May Cry or Resident Evil will. So
Right.
it's fun to hear people who love Fallout say, no, Fallout has a pretty bad story.
Oh yeah, no, it's not great. I mean, the whole idea is that you're supposed to be able to kind of go in and be like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do the main storyline. But like, even if you were going to do it, it doesn't make sense that you would like one guy and you end up becoming like the head of the Magus College, and then you become like the head of the Thieves Guild, and then you become like the Dragonborn who saves the entire world. And then when you're walking around and you decide you're going to do the companions are like, who's this guy? Like, that because of the open-endedness, there's no way to make the story all that compelling because they have no way of knowing what order you're going to do everything in.
Exactly.
So that's just how those games are.
I dig it. I dig it. So going into Fallout 76, have you seen anything about Fallout 76, the new one?
Yeah, now I'm contractually obligated to learn all I can about it. So I watched the E3. We actually sort of live cast it, and I made comments on it while we were watching it. And I gotta say, I was actually really hoping for like a kind of a co-op thing. I was kind of thinking it was going to be like Far Cry 5, where you can sort of play with another person. Because I was like, I probably won't play with other people if it's like this.
Yeah,
And
because this one
then
this one
yeah,
seems very MMO-y, like where
uh,
there's you because of the drop in, drop out, like it I don't know, it feels like Fallout 76 is trying to do a lot of things that other games are doing. Like it has the squad based shooting like from the Division. It has you playing solo like the Fortnite crafting and building styles and so many different mechanics and it's interesting to see that, especially in a game that's going to deviate so much from what people, or it feels like it's going to deviate from what people love about it. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
well, okay. So I also watched the what is their company called? The No Clip. It was like a no clip documentary. After they released a documentary about like the history of Bethesda games first, and then after Fallout 76 kind of dropped, they released a documentary about the making of Fallout 76. And so I went through and watched some of this stuff, and actually the more that I watch it, the more that I'm kind of the more that I think about this game, the more I'm kind of into it. So it doesn't have like a giant server with like thousands and thousands of players like how ESO is. It's like the maximum amount of people that can be in this world that's 4 times the size of Fallout is like 24 to 36 people. So even just running into another person is a pretty rare occurrence, which kind of shakes with the lore because these guys just got let out of the vault and there's not that many people walking around. There's like no raiders, there's no town set up. And so if you want to be a whatever, if you want to like find a place to sell your stuff, you can't just like go to town and sell your stuff. You have to find a guy who's running a shop and sell your stuff to that guy. And if you want to run a shop, you got to run a shop because there's nobody else around. So I mean, I kind of like the idea of it because it sort of gives it kind of answers the question as to like why after 200 years has nobody like rebuilt anything? Like why is I live in Utah and it's only been like 250 years I think since the state was founded, and there's like a city with like skyscrapers and freeway system and stuff like that. So it's like, why haven't they rebuilt? And the answer is this is why. Because you go and try to build a town, and some 14-year-old in Nantucket nukes your whole city, and you have to go find him. And then you find out where he lives, and then you and your friends nuke his city. And then, I mean, like, I kind of, the more I think about it, the more I really like it.
Well, the
I
more
don't
you
know if
describe
it's,
it this way, the more I'm kind of interested. It's like, wow, when you put it in that perspective, like, yeah, you're right. This makes perfect sense.
yeah, I mean, it's, and what I'm really worried about is I don't like respecking a character. I really like it when you have to kind of commit. And I also okay. Sorry. The one thing that I really like about it that I've seen is like all of the sort of interactivity stuff with the different players. But the one thing that I'm really not sure about is like the whole like um, whatever great like rare drops and like respecking your character and stuff. That stuff does feel very MMO-y to me. I love it when people have to make a character and it takes ages and they have to commit to it. Like like the old Diablo games, where if you make a character that's terrible, you got to start over. Because I love starting over. That's like my favorite thing. You know what I mean? So I hope that they don't make it so easy to just say, I just want this guy to be completely different character than what I've been playing so far. So yeah, if that happens, then I mean, whatever. I'll just roll with it because if I don't play Fallout 76, I'm going to be killed. So I'm just going to play Fallout 76. But
Well, you
that's what
see,
I'm hoping
you did
doesn't
a really
happen.
great job of selling me on Fallout 76. I feel like you were able to convince me that this is going to be a good game more than everything that I've seen about it. Because of your connection
Yeah.
to Fallout, you were able to like put it in a very, very deep perspective where like, okay, there's 12, 24, 36 people on the planet. So I guess like the big question I would have is who else do you interact with besides these people?
Nobody. There's no NPCs in the whole game. I mean, there's nobody outside except for these mutants and these sort of like. There are some guys that are, I guess, from what I've seen from this weird documentary I'm describing. There's some guys that are like ghouls, which are like these sort of heavily irradiated, jerky people, and they're almost all the way gone, but they're still all there enough to run a gun. So you can still get shot at by somebody who's not a player. Um, but other than that, there's nobody out there. Like, okay, so it sounds terrible because everybody's played an online game, and the only thing that they can think of is like how badly they've been griefed in online games, especially online games that are mostly populated by like high school kids, like I don't know, like Fortnite or like World of Warcraft or any of these games where it's just like everybody is sort of like bored after the first 3 months, and they just go around like harassing people.
Yeah.
But the Fallout community hated the idea of an online game because they're all not like that. So if they all get into the game, it's going to be filled with people who just want to like hang out, or like they don't even really want to hang out. They just want to go do their own thing. And so if the Fallout fans followed Bethesda into this Fallout 76 universe, there's not going to be that many of those griefers that we're all afraid of. You know what I mean?
Okay, okay,
So
that
that's
makes
what I'm
sense.
hoping. That's what I'm hoping. I don't know if that's really going to happen. I was hoping for a co-op game and it didn't happen. So who knows what my hopes are worth? But I think that if people get into it, it's it's like the people who were into Fallout's before. It'll just be like you know, sort of a let's take care of each other kind of thing.
So you still have the potential of making it something co-op because you can like stay in touch with your friends, or is it something where every single time you start the game over you're introduced to a whole new set of people?
No, you can actually, so you can make, like, you can add your friends or make your friends, and they can just sort of follow you into a server. So if you want to like have a server that's totally populated by people who are like your friends, um, I'm not. They don't have like a private server thing yet. You can't like set aside your own server that only you're allowed to play around in. But they say they're planning on it. But for right now, if like for instance, if I went into a game and say 2 dozen people from the chat decided they wanted to get into the game too, that could like fill the whole area. And if you make this like sort of establishment, like your camp with your resources and your workbenches and your shelter and all this other kind of stuff, when you go into a new server, it puts it right where you left it in the world. And if it doesn't fit because somebody else is already there for some reason, then it will pack it up and you can go basically just place it somewhere else, like blueprints. So it should be fairly easy if you're part of like a gaming community that you really love, to basically dominate a server and make sure that nobody is going to like harass you and your friends. And even if one or two stragglers come in and they're going to harass you, you can just overwhelm them with numbers. So yeah, they should have that whole thing set up, a whole social system, and it shouldn't be very difficult for your friends to like join you or whatever. It's not like totally random or anything.
Okay, okay, that's pretty dope. So what other game got you excited that you saw during the Bethesda conference, or any of the conferences you got a
So
chance to watch?
Okay, so obviously I watched all of the Bethesda conference. I loved the last Wolfenstein game that they made, and the new Wolfenstein that they're talking about called Wolfenstein Youngblood. It is co-op, but if you haven't played like the new Colossus yet, you got to. I'm talking to you and all your listeners. You got to play that game. That game is like there's such natural character movement and acting in it, like well beyond anything that I've ever seen in a game before. Like there's a part in the last Wolfenstein where this sort of like really heavy German girl is sitting in a chair and she's thinking about her like favorite German boy band, and this like sort of Jewish scientist is telling her that she doesn't need to worry about who she's going to marry anymore because she's decided to defect. And there's like a moment where you kind of watch her face, and she has that moment of realization on her face. She doesn't just like turn her head and go, "Oh yeah." She like her eyes like open up like she's thinking about it for a second, and I'm like, that is crazy. Like, and the whole game is like that. Like every time you interact with somebody, they act like totally naturally. So the new Wolfenstein, I'm excited for. It's got you're sort of co-oping as William Blazkowicz's twin daughters, and I mean, I don't know how. I actually don't know how G-rated your podcast is. Do
It's
we
not at
swear
all.
on this podcast? Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Let me just put an epilogue on the end of that suggestion to play Wolfenstein and say fuck Nazis. So there you go.
There we go. I like it. Yeah, no, Wolfenstein was definitely one of the ones that got my attention because I feel like it's had such a strong resurgence since it had that reboot at the beginning of this console generation. And like you were just saying, like each version of the Wolfenstein game has been amazing thus far. Like the New Order was phenomenal. What was the recent one? I'm drawing a blank on the
Colossus.
subtitle for the recent one, but that was fantastic. This Young Blood that's coming up looks amazing, and like each one of them is just giving us so much more and doing so much more with the storytelling and like you said, the animations, the visuals, all of it, all kind of like thrown in as one piece, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and of course, it looked to me like the Blazkowicz thing, the new Colossus, was in the '60s, and if his kids are in their '20s, then this game is set in the '80s, and everybody loves a game set in the '80s. Games set in the '80s are the best. So I mean, just imagine Vice City, but there's Nazis. I love it.
Just imagine Vice City, but there's Nazis. I'm gonna have to quote you on that one because that's a good one. Vice City is probably the only. Vice City is the only Grand Theft Auto game that I've ever finished, and it's really the only Grand Theft Auto game that I enjoy. I thought the story was phenomenal in that, so I could see how you would feel that the '80s is the best place for games. Definitely.
Well, I also just watched Atomic Blonde the other day, and it's like set in the '80s too. I just love the soundtrack. I just can't. I want them to remake because what they did um, in the new Colossus was they remade a bunch of '60s songs in German, as if like the German pop culture had taken over. And so I'm just gonna love like the extra synthy '80s versions of music in German from this game. I hope that that's what they do. I have no idea because they didn't show a whole lot of it, but yeah,
Oh my
that's looking like
God!
it's gonna be pretty cool.
Take on Me in German. That would be epic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That would be epic in the worst ways. Oh man, I can't even like really wrap my head around the concept of it.
I'm just picturing Kung Fury basically because Kung Fury's got an '80s vibe and there's Nazis, and I'm just like, this is gonna be so good.
Oh man, I'm just thinking of all like now you have me thinking about all the different songs that would be hilarious to listen to a German version. Like I said, Take on Me. If they like dove into hip hop and did like My Adidas by Run DMC, just all these different ridiculous sounds.
Oh man, that would be so good. If they somehow made like Germans the people who invented hip hop, it would be like so clunky and funny. But like, oh man, I'm just thinking about that now because I actually am really into hip hop, especially from like the underground stuff. Like I listen to this is really off topic, but I listen to like Edon and like Canox and like Idea and Abilities and stuff like that. And so the idea of listening to like Grandmaster Flash in German, man, that's gonna be good.
Africa Mombada in German. Oh man.
Yeah, cool Keith. Oh man, dude, that would be so good. Ultramagnetic MCs in German, please.
I hope that they hear us. I hope Bethesda
I
or someone over there listens and is like, "Hey, this is a really good idea, actually."
I really do too, because when people do this sort of '80s thing, they always focus on like synth pop stuff, and they completely miss out on like the golden age of hip hop, like every time. So yeah, if you're listening, Bethesda Studios, consider it. Put some hip hop in there.
Yeah, just give it a light thought. It doesn't have to be anything abstract. Just a little, just a thought. Give us something. One song would be great. Um, like
Yeah.
it would be great to see like a Nazi being the first person to like spin vinyls at a house party, and you're like busting into this house party as as Blaskovich and just like tearing apart this house party that was happening, and it just I can see it now. I can see it now.
Yeah, let's at least have one like Nazi b-boy group get served, and then because they're so angry, they end up just like shooting up the whole club, and then that's your reason for like going into like clear them out is because of that. Please, just that would be great.
Oh man,
Super good.
that would be epic. Keeping on the theme of Bethesda, one game that has a little bit of like a weird like '80s vibe and it's in neon coloring. Rage 2. Did you see any of that?
I did see it, and okay, so that was what they opened with, and one of the reasons I think that they kind of opened with that instead of open with like their sort of expansions for Elder Scrolls Legends and stuff is because I guess Walmart Canada ended up leaking it, and so they actually teased it on Twitter like a week beforehand.
Yeah,
But I actually never played any of the Rage games. Or,
I
I
don't
don't
think
know. I
anyone
guess
did.
Rage game. I didn't play Rage 1, but yeah, the obviously Andrew WK has a little bit of history with Fallout because he is the voice of Red Eye, the radio DJ in Nuka World. So he's already been a character in a Fallout game. So I imagine because they brought him out to do a song while they sort of played this video, I imagine he's somewhat connected to it. He might be in it as like a voice of a character or whatever. But it kind of, what it kind of feels like to me is it just kind of feels like a even more ridiculous and even more violent Borderlands.
Yeah,
That's
when
that's
I was
kind of what
watching
it
the
looks.
trailer, like I'm one of the few people. I was working for a game retail store that we will not mention because they don't pay for advertisement. But I was working at a game store, and when the first Rage came out, I remember like all the advertisement and promotion. I was like, wow, I'm not gonna play this game. It doesn't look very interesting. And then the game finally came out, and there wasn't a lot of interest in it. I did have one coworker who fell in love with the game and loved everything about it and was always bragging about how great it was. But it never really took off in any way, and it was a commercial. It was pretty much a commercial failure, in my opinion. Um, like reviews weren't too great. It just lacked so much. So when Rage 2 was announced or leaked, I was just like, wow, who asked for this and why are they doing it? But then after seeing the gameplay trailer and the gameplay trailer really is what sold me on it. I was like, this game looks phenomenal. Like I want to play this game all day long. And with there not being a Borderlands this year, I can't imagine why anyone would pass up this game, even if it's just to give it a shot. You know?
Yeah, yeah. So what I kind of feel like from Bethesda right now is for I guess maybe yeah. I guess we could say decades. For decades, they've been making these games that are like games for people who design games. Basically, I mean, there's these epic sprawling worlds with like all these little intricate quests, and there's multiple ways to complete them, and like there's tons of opportunity for like role play, and they love the modding community, and they're just taking care of the modding community so much, and all this kind of stuff. And by the way, the user license agreement for like Fallout Skyrim stuff It is insane. I mean, they literally are like, you can play it on Twitch, you can film yourself playing it, you can mod the game, you can sell the mods, you can put your videos on YouTube, like anything. Like they're like cool with anything. So I'm like, yeah, this is like a really sort of like deep fan base company. And right now, what it kind of feels like is going on is they're getting better at like the marketing aspect of the games, and like just instead of just sort of being like, this is a game that if it exists, it's going to be so good. Now they're like, we're going to do the promotional stuff. We're going to put the Vault Boy on on billboards and on buildings and like really hype stuff up, and like they got an amazing sort of PR team now. But as that happens, what I'm kind of getting the sense that's going on is they're sort of trying to um, appeal to the biggest number of people. But the problem is that the biggest number of people are the people who are like they're like the easiest to please. Do you know what I mean? Like Minecraft appeals to the biggest number of people. Like Fortnite appeals to the biggest number of people. And those games are great, but there's not a whole lot to them. And so when I was watching that clip on or no clip documentary, they were talking about like we want to. It's hard for us because sometimes we want to do the things that we want to do, and it doesn't make sense to like double down on the stuff that nobody likes that we want to do. And instead, we ought to focus on the stuff that everybody likes to do. But I would caution anybody from like getting too far into that mindset, because what people really want is something that has like no chance like after the first or second game. Like you don't want to just make like a fan service game. It's not a good idea.
Yeah,
So
because then the fans will disappear on you.
absolutely. Like the people who are really into it is okay. So that was one of the reasons why people didn't like Fallout 4, because the implication was it's just a game where you shoot people. There's not like that intense of a story. There's not a lot of different ways to complete quests, and that's not true. It's just that you have to massage the sort of world a little bit to get that stuff to happen. It used to be different, where you could literally go up to a place, and depending on what you said to them, you would have like a certain conclusion. But yeah, that's I can't even remember why I went off on that tangent, but that's
Oh,
the
we
thing
were
that
talking about the way that Rage is kind of playing the role of Borderlands this year, or may play the role of
yeah.
Borderlands this year. I don't think
So
any
yeah,
game will
so
ever top the amount of
yeah.
like the arsenal options that you have in Borderlands. I don't think any game will ever be able to match that because of how
Yeah.
ridiculous they are.
And well, and also the like dialogue in Borderlands is so well written. You have to really have like landed a genius to be able to come up with a game that doesn't feel like Borderlands so much, but has like a lot of really great dialogue. So, but yeah, they've made this game. I'm glad they didn't like make it a Fallout or something. But if this is their game for appealing to like the teens, then great, let them have it. I'll probably play it once. I probably won't play it again. I just let me have my Fallout. That's all I want.
I dig it. I dig it. All right. Well, that was a blast. I'm glad we got to talk a little bit about E3. Got to learn a little bit about you. Now this is the part of the show where you put your life on the line, and some people might hate you, some people might love you. It's video game trivia.
Oh, goody. All
So
right, hit me.
so here's how it works, right? We're gonna do 10 questions. I have a list of 29 questions. You pick a number from 1 through 29. We're going to get through 10 questions. And if you get 7 or more out of the 10 questions right, we give one lucky listener a PSN, Xbox Live, or Steam $20 gift card.
Nice.
So
All
you're
right. That
playing
sounds
for
nice.
some people to win, and that's where you put your life on the line.
All right. All right. Sounds good.
All right. So first question, 1 through 29.
All right. Let's make this interesting. Give me all the even questions in order till we do 10 questions. So start with number 2, and then do number 4, and then do number 6. Okay.
Wow, that is amazing that you said that. So your first question is, what year was Fallout 3 released?
Um, this is a question that I should absolutely know the answer to. I believe it was 2008.
Yeah, you got it. All right. So off to a good start. That seems like it's gonna work pretty well. Um, Fallout 3 was released in 2008. So next question, which would be question number 4. Which game of the Assassin's Creed series takes place in Ptolemaic Egypt?
Okay, I will tell you right now, I have played 0 of the Assassin's Creed games. So let's take a wild shot in the dark and say Assassin's Creed 3.
Oh man, no, it's actually Assassin's Creed Origins, which would be the 10th game in the series.
They made 10 games?
They're going
Why do
on
they keep
well,
making
so
Assassin's?
yeah, there's 10
Well, I
games
guess
in Assassin's
I
Creed.
love Fallout. I shouldn't talk shit about any other fan base, but man, that's a lot of Assassin's Creed games that I didn't know about. I genuinely thought there was 4.
Yeah, no, there are 10. Well, there'll be 11 games at the end of this year with Assassin's Creed Odyssey releasing in November.
Yeah, I'm banking on a retro round where we cover the games from the 80s and 90s because those are the ones that I have the widest knowledge base of.
Well, we'll
Like, you
continue
asked
with
me a question about
we'll
Symphony
continue
of
with
the
the
Night.
even number escapade and see what happens.
Okay.
All right, so question number 6. In which game is every assassinated person a real person with accurate death, date, and place?
Okay, hold on a second. In what game is every assassinated person a real person with an accurate death, name, and place?
Death, date, and place. Yeah. So in this game, you assassinate every person that you're told to assassinate is a real person in history, and the assassination date is correct and the place is correct.
Shall we? Well, I really don't know. Shall we just take a guess and say Hitman?
That was a really good guess. It wasn't right, but it was a good guess. Hitman is one of my favorite assassination series, but this question is also Assassin's Creed.
See, I veered away from it because I was like, there can't be more than one Assassin's Creed question on this list, can there? But there it is. There it is.
There it is.
Trust your instincts, I guess.
Always trust your gut. All right. So, question number 4, which is number 8 on my list, is also a modern gaming question. Which year was Minecraft released?
Let's see. This game is actually younger than it looks. I would say, let's see. I'm trying to remember what I was playing right around the time that Minecraft was the thing. Could I? Okay, let's go ahead and take a shot at 2010.
Oh, so close. It's actually 2009, 1 year after Fallout 3.
Yeah, I figured I kind of played it a little bit before Skyrim came out. I know Skyrim came out in 2011, so
that was a good guess.
But I guess 2009, pretty close.
All right, so
I think I have to literally get all the rest of these questions right.
I was just gonna say that you have to get every question right from here forward, in order for someone to win. But I think you got this. You should be able to nail this, especially with this next question. This next question is pretty easy. What does Mario jump on after completing a level?
In the original Mario.
Yep.
A flagpole.
Perfect. There you go. All right, so we're looking good. That's 2 out of 5. So you just have to get the next 5 questions correct.
I feel great about it.
All right, so the next question on our board is question 12, and I think this one's a pretty easy one in my opinion. I absolutely. I guess this is the only question where I'm going to give you a hint, just because it's like it's necessary for me to say I hate this game series so much. Not much of a hint if you don't really know me as a person, but I hate this game series. So, question number 6 is the character Master Hand is in which game?
You hate the Super Smash Brothers series?
Yes. I absolutely hate
What? I
Super
mean,
Smash
why?
Brothers. I love fighting
I
games, and I just feel like the mechanics in Smash Brothers are way too reliant on like jumping around, and they're
I
less
mean,
reliant on like combo filling and stuff like that. So not a big fan
yeah,
at all.
I kind of get that.
Not a fan. But you did
Fair
get it
enough.
right, so that's looking good. We're looking good. You only got to get the next 4 right. So let's see how it goes. Um, okay. Wow, this one's really easy. What does NES stand for?
Nintendo Entertainment System.
There you go. All right, so you got to get these next 3 questions right, and we're still going in order in even numbers. We are
Nice.
looking. It's looking like you might be able to do this, though, from what I'm looking at. But let's see what happens. Who is the brother of Liquid Snake?
I imagine. Well, it's been a pretty long time since I played Metal Gear Solid, but I think it actually is Solid Snake.
Yes, it is. Oh, I'm so glad you got that right because this is my favorite game series, which is kind of weird that like back to back that happened.
Honestly, though, the Metal Gear Solid 3 was like my favorite one of the series. The intro to that game is so good, so good, like deeply memorable for me. I will like just sit and watch the intro to that game sometimes.
Of Metal Gear Solid 3?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was by far my favorite of the series.
My favorite is still in a weird way Metal Gear Solid 1. Like I just can't get over everything that game accomplished and everything it did for us like as gamers and as an industry. So I just like I think that's really the game, you know? But I understand
Yeah.
why a lot of people love Metal Gear Solid 3. It had the most technical advancements. It gave us a whole new perspective on the series and on the story. So I dig that. And it did have a great opening.
Well, and the one thing that Metal Gear Solid really does well is, as part of their sort of like side stuff that allows for like collectability thing, that unlocks things that make the game like sort of eminently replayable, where you can sort of like, if you find every single snake in the game, then you unlock a thing that lets you be. It's like camouflage that basically makes you be permanently invisible. So it's like a really intense challenge to do on top of everything else. And that's not even related to like not killing anybody throughout the game, which I remember pretty distinctly you can do in the Metal Gear Solid games. So
Yeah, you can go
yeah,
through
kudos.
every one. You can go through every, especially starting from Metal Gear Solid 2 when they added the tranquilizer. You can go through every single game without killing even the boss battles. You can just tranquilize everyone.
Yeah, it's such a great idea. What a solid mechanic.
Okay, so on to our next question. We're going back into something a little more modern. Um, who developed Destiny 2?
That must have been Bungie, I guess.
Yes, it was. Wow, you're really
Nice.
killing this, dude.
Nice. I honestly I didn't play. I was never a Halo dude. I played Counter Strike in like the 2000s. I was a huge fan of like Counter Strike Source, and so I totally skipped over the Halo thing. But I just remember somebody being like, "Destiny, man, it's so cool. You should play it." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's made by the people who made Halo." And I was like, "Pass." Hard
He's like,
pass.
pass. All right, and for our last question, here it is, the moment of truth. One lucky gamer listening to our podcast will be given a online credit to the store of their choosing if you get this right. What color are the wings of the dragon Spyro in the titular Spyro the Dragon?
I think okay. So let me think about this. Spyro is purple, and I think his wings might be yellow.
Ah, so close. They're actually orange.
Well,
But
sorry,
I
kid.
feel like
Try
we
again next week.
he said try again next week. I feel like that one can be I feel like we can hand that one off though cuz it's an older game, in game, the yellows and the oranges might blend a little bit. So we'll let that one slide.
So I was just thinking to myself, like, it's got to be a color that sort of goes with purple, and there's not really a whole lot of colors that go with purple. So
There
I
are
was like,
very few.
"Oh, I'll take a crack at yellow." That's actually sort of that's sort of like the how should I put this? It's like the color scheme that I approve of the most is purple and yellow. So
That's funny.
yeah, I'm a big fan.
Our um, lead designer Chet, he loves the aesthetic colors that are pink and blue, which is almost the exact opposite of what you just said. So that's pretty cool.
That's gotta. I mean, that definitely has a good look too. If you're kind of going for like a sort of a pastel pink and blue thing, because you've got. I mean, we just talked about Rage too. You've got that whole dynamic. It doesn't have to be cutesy. It can be really rad. So
Exactly.
so way to go, chat, and also. I guess congrats to the person who just got a game despite my almost failure. It's like a 50, it's like a 51%. I'm like, man, C's get degrees. I passed.
It's
But just barely.
it's still a passing score as far as I'm concerned. So we did it.
Nice.
So Kyle, I want to thank you for coming on the show and hanging out with me on behalf of Hard Mode Gamers. I really appreciate it. Tell the people where they can find your Twitch streams, your Twitter, any way that you want people to get in touch and say hello.
Super. So, okay, just so you know, I made a terrible mistake when I started making YouTube videos. My name is WeirdistBuilds, and I spelled Weirdest IST because I thought it would be a really clever way of combining the word weird and the word artist. But what I ended up with is a name that literally Google will autocorrect for you if you type it in at all. If you type WEIRDIST, it will say we searched for weirdest with an E. So just so you know, it's WEIRDIST, and you can literally find all of those links at a new website that I just put up called theweirdist.com. You can just go to theweirdist.com and all the links are in there, as well as all the builds that I've made for every Fallout character that we've played. All of them have been tested in survival or very hard. They're really good builds. You can go in there, find yourself a character, and just follow along with the plan. You can role play them in any way you want, and they all work. They're super good builds, and they're super weird. So
I dig it. That's pretty cool.
Check those out. And of course, the Twitter is on there. The Twitch link is on there. Discord is on there. The merch link is on there. My cat Azura has an Instagram. That link is in there. So just check that website out, and it should give you all the information you need.
Oh man, your cat has an Instagram. That's a beautiful way to end the show. That's amazing.
Yeah, she runs it too. If you go look at her like captions and stuff, it's like all lowercase and like really badly spelled because she has paws, like what do you expect? So
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, Kyle, thank you again for coming on, hanging out with us. This has been Hard Mode Gamers podcast. I'm your host, Super Vega. That's SOOPERVEGA. And this was probably the most interesting podcast that I've ever done because I'm currently on tour. So I'm doing this out of the hotel room. And it was quite a pain in the ass to find the cable that I needed. So, yeah. This has been fun.
Yeah, man. Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on, and hopefully we can stay in touch.